Hi, I want to do a little series of videos now on drawing, painting and using basically Camera Lucida to create a whole thing from start to finish. But before I do that, I want to sort of also cover something that I think everybody seems to get very confused about, and that is how to save and restore using Camera Lucida. Now, saving you may want to use for various reasons. One of them would be that you just want to have a break from your sessions and you want to come back to the painting, drawing, whatever later on, and that's a legitimate thing. Sometimes you might just want to do something else, catch up with emails, take your iPad out, do various other bits and pieces. Sometimes the battery goes flat. There's lots of reasons really, but there's two fundamental aspects of it. One is you need to save at various stages in your work where you are. Camera Lucida will take a snapshot of exactly where you are in your painting, and it'll give you the ability to enter a description of that snapshot. It'll save the exact date and time so you know which is the latest one. It will take a copy of the original image and lots of other bits and pieces. So we'll go through that in this video. And then what you'll see, funnily enough, later on is my system does crash. I do need to restore. And so I go through that process and restore the picture. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a picture, and it's going to be of a digger. Barney and I went for a walk, and he gets fascinated by seeing all the machinery that's up the road because they're digging up the road and doing lots of road works. So whenever we walk past the equipment, he likes to have a look and see what's going on. The picture I chose, which I'll show you, I like because it's got perspective in it and it's got lots of colours. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the save restore. We're also going to look at how we create a bigger picture than we can do on the iPad. And again, this is using the technique I discussed in a previous video, which is to split the picture into half or 2/3 and 1/3 so that you end up covering probably an A3 size, but just with the normal portrait mode of the iPad. So we're going to cover quite a few things, which is why this video is split into multiple videos. The first video, which is this one, we'll be covering saving and restoring. We'll also be looking at doing the initial pencil outline of the digger and splitting that into two and then drawing that onto a much larger piece of art paper than we could normally do with Camera Lucida. So if that kind of stuff really interests you, then stick around and have a look at the video. The next video we will be doing pen and ink on the picture and then looking at using one of the fantastic drawing modes, which is the colour palette, and that enables you to draw and paint using your colours. And the cleverness, if you like, of Camera Lucida is that it will map out all the colours you need and allow you to adjust them, and then you can obviously mix up your colours before you come to do the painting. It's a fantastic facility. I think it's one of the most underrated facilities in Camera Lucida, and I use it and I find it absolutely fantastic. So stick around for that. That'll be in the next video coming up after this one. If I go into the draw mode, which is the button at the bottom there, you'll see that there's this arrow in the top right hand side pointing downwards. That arrow, when we press it, we have the ability to basically take a snapshot of our screen, and we can say save session. Now that saving of the session will save a description if we type it in, the date, the original reference image, any filters used, and also a snapshot of the drawing as we are at the moment. Then once we've done the snapshot, we can go back in, and we can only do that snapshot in draw mode. Remember, draw mode is the mode where we have the hand with the pen in it. To go into restore mode, we need to be in the setup mode, which is this mode, and we need to make sure that we've got the icons along the bottom, including the hand and everything else. So now we know we're in setup mode. And then we press the top left-hand hamburger menu, and then down through that list, we can see it says restore draw session. And we would select that. It would show you the sessions. You click the session you want to restore, and then Camera Lucida would do its magic stuff. Okay, so I've loaded up this image here, which is a picture that I took today when we were, Barney and I, taking the dog for a walk, and they're digging up the roads all around us, and the workmen were out there. I saw this sunbelt digger, really good, and I thought it's nice and colourful, so we can look at using the palette mode to create the colours and to draw this picture. And it will also help us with the save restore, just to show you the concept. So what we need to do is we need to sketch an outline of this first. What I've done, I've got my piece of paper, I've taped it down, and following on from a previous video where I talked about how to draw onto bigger paper than the iPad can display, I've basically positioned positioned this picture so that if I take the transparency right off, my left-hand edge is right on the corner of the paper. The top's at the top, bottom's at the bottom, but the right-hand edge is, as you can see, coming in about here. So what I'll do is I'll split this picture into two. I'll draw effectively 2/3 of the picture, and then I'll either move the board or the iPad across and draw the other half of the picture so that we get the complete picture. The way we'll do it is we will have part of this image when we move across already drawn, so we can just match that picture up with the picture we've got on here. So it's going to be important to save and restore because this could go over multiple sessions. Once you have your picture exactly how you want it lined up and you've squared it up with your grid sheet, circles are circles, squares are squares, you've done all that in setup mode, the way we go into saving is we basically have to be in draw mode. Draw mode, if you remember, is a hand with a pen in it. That is draw mode. You can only draw when you're in draw mode. So now I'm in draw mode. Saving is always done in this mode, and that's important to remember. Okay, so in the upper right hand side of our screen here, you can see that we have this down arrow. So if we press the down arrow here, the upper right hand side, we can now save a session. You can see there's a previous session from something I was drawing before. So we can add a new session. Before we add the new session, we want to make sure we've got nothing on the drawing. We haven't got our hand in the way, anything like that, because it's going to take a snapshot of our drawing area on the table here. So we tap for a new session. As you can see, I've basically got my hand in the way. So we do retake snapshot, and there's my snapshot. Okay, there's nothing on there at the moment, which is fair enough. There will be in a minute, but you just need to get used to continually doing snapshots, and this will become important later on. Give it a session name, so I just put in there start or something and save. Okay, so we've saved that session, and you can see what it's actually done is it's added the date that the session was captured and the time accurately. It's also saved the original reference image that we're drawing, so it keeps a copy of that, and it also saves the last filter that we were using, and that will become important when we look at using the palette mode to draw this digger. And it also obviously takes a snapshot over here of the drawing surface that we're working on. Now all these things are very important because if we ever have to restore, we will need the system, Camera Lucida, to understand all of those things in order to get us back to where we were. Okay, so we can close this off now because we've taken a snapshot. That's it, we've saved. Brilliant. We can go through the restore bit later on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fast forward past this, and I'm going to draw the outline of this digger, bollards, etc., so that we've got a rough sketch here so that we can then go to looking at restoring and other bits and pieces. I'll put this on fast forward just while I'm doing the sketching. Okay, as you can see, this thing is quite complicated. It's got a lot of lines, quite a few bits of perspective and stuff like that, which takes a wee bit of time. I mean, one way of doing this would be to do a very rough outline to start with and then to elaborate on it later on. So now the thing to do is move the picture so that we can draw this other side so we get a bigger picture. As I explained before last time, what we're going to do is we're going to use the outline of this tractor. We are going to move across so that we've now got the iPad on the other side. So I'll come out of drawing mode, which is this button down here. So we're out of drawing mode now. What I'm going to do is move, if I move my paper across, you can see that what we need to do is to draw this side. By moving our iPad across, we can get the image right the way to the right hand side. Again, no pinching and zooming, we're just moving it. The next thing we're going to do is we're now going to line up our image with the image that we can see superimposed on the screen. So there's the image, and I'm just going to get a rough outline so that I can now get this into the right position. So this will take a little while to get it exactly right, because as you can see, we're not quite there. We need to manipulate the drawing and the iPad until we get both in exactly the right position. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that, and I think we're okay. We've got pretty much the right position for both things here, so we just need to make sure that we've got everything exactly lined up how we want it. And this can take a little while because it's important to get it right. Once you've got it right, of course, it's very easy. Okay, so we're going to go with that. What we need to do now is we need to take a snapshot because we need to save our session. Always save your session in drawing mode. So we're back into drawing mode. We click the down arrow, tap here to create a new session, and we are going to, obviously I've got my hand in it because I was pressing the button. So down the bottom here, we can retake the snapshot. So we're going to retake the snapshot. It'll do a countdown, 3, 2, 1, snapshot. So now it's taken a snapshot of the picture and all the other settings that we had in place. Just click save, and now that's saved. So now we've got two snapshots. One was a complete blank and the other one was the one that we've just done here with half the picture. So we can close that off, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to do the other part of the picture. I was working away and it crashed, so that's a good example of what can actually happen. So what we need to do now, look at trying to restore a session so that we can get back to where we were. So, and we do that from the setup mode, and we do it from the top right hand menu, which is on the left hand side at the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to select that, and down here we can see we've got restore draw session. So if I select that and I select this one here, so if we just press restore, it has a little think and it goes through, adjust the transparency, adjust the picture, and we say okay. You can see that it's done a really good job of basically finding the picture and restoring it back to where we were. So that's a great example of where the system crashed for whatever reason. I can't say it's Camera Lucida, it could have been anything, but I was in the middle of drawing. Back to where I was would have been a bit of a nightmare. So what I'll do now is I'll go into draw mode. Always go into draw mode when you save a session. I'll click the save session button and I'll tap here to add a new session. Obviously it's got my hand in it because I was pressing it. If I do retake snapshot down the bottom here, it will give me a chance to get everything out of the way. 3, 2, 1. We'll then take a snapshot, which is exactly how I want it. I'll press save and it will obviously save the session. So now I've got a saved session with more or less the complete outline in pencil and half the outline. So that's saved both those sessions. But at least now I can continue to draw, and I'm pretty much where I was before. That's just saved me probably about 10 minutes to basically go through everything and try and line everything up again, which would have been quite a nightmare. So I can just continue from where I was, and I'll bring you back when I finish. Taken probably best part of maybe 3/4 of an hour to an hour to sketch this out. It's got a lot of sort of little fiddly details on. This is just the pencil sketch. So obviously what I will do now is I'll go through and do the pen and then rub out the pencil. So this is basically the first stage of what we're going to do, which we're going to be looking at how we do a palette picture. So we're going to be using the color palette up here. So the color palette, in my opinion, is just about one of the most useful drawing modes you can have when you're in draw mode. Color palette gives you the option to select any number of colors up to about 64, but normally between 8 and 16 colors. It allows you to print out a color swatch so you can mix up your paints to the colors that you've selected for your picture, and then it gives you the option to change those colors, modify them, and do all sorts of things. It's a great mode for drawing with Camera Lucida, and we'll have a look at that. So before we get to that, what I wanted to do was show you basically the concept of sketching out your picture and using the save and restore. It did crash once. I'm not sure why. It's an old iPad. It could be for all sorts of reasons, but just like a PC or a Mac, the older the machine, probably the more likely it is to crash. So you would press that button, you would tap for a new session. You see the 3 sessions I've saved. There's the original picture. That was the left side. That was the right side. That was the whole picture. So that's how I do bigger pictures. I split them into 2. And it's also got the progress. So we had nothing to start with. We had the
left-hand side there, which was how we started the picture. Then we shifted things across to the right, do the right-hand side and fill in some of the details. Now you know how to save and restore your paintings as you go. And I can't stress the importance of understanding that process and being able to do it consistently and remembering to do it. So I hope that's helped, and I look forward to doing the next video with you guys. Thanks again. Bye.